Chapter 4 is just like Chapter 2. It's pretty much just giving you more tools for analysis, but these go a little deeper into the text. They're a little more complex. So just like with Chapter 2, pick out a few that seem to really work for you and use those as you analyze throughout the rest of the quarter. Again, they can be used as pre-writing or, if you're just trying to think up some ideas for what to write about. But again, just use what's comfortable for you. The one that I really suggest is the focused rewriting because it really actually kind of helps you with writer's block, and it allows you to see what you're interested in. And one thing that I've done in the past is you do a free write based on, a passage that you find particularly meaningful, and then you go through your free write and you pick out one sentence that you are really interested in, that you could develop even more. Then you free write again based on that sentence. Then you take that chunk of paper or chunk of writing, again, find another sentence, and then do it again. And then the more you do it, the more focused you become, and you would be surprised at how quickly a paper can develop from that. I think the general rule is doing it at least 3 times. So the first time is based on a passage. Second time is based on a sentence from your first pre-write. The third time is based on a sentence from your second pre-write. So it really helps you to focus yourself, focus your ideas, and really narrows down what you're interested in. So I really suggest that. It's not time consuming at all, but what you get out of it is so worth what little time you put into it. So I really, really suggest doing this pre-writing. It's just something you can do on your own. Do it 10 to 20 minutes at a time. Which I know may sound like a lot, but imagine how much time you could be wasting just staring at your computer screen going, duh, I have no idea what to write about. So really, it's a great way to get past writer's block, get some ideas flowing, and see what you're interested in. All right, let's see here. Yeah, and the last bullet I have there just kind of repeats what I've said. Just use what you're comfortable with, and the more you use them, the more comfortable you'll be with them. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about Chapter 4. So I wanted to kind of talk about rhetoric a little bit more. So I'm going to go to a slideshow that was done by the OWL at Purdue, which is, of course, a site that I've referenced a few times already this quarter. So we're going to look at what the rhetorical situation is and how it affects writing. All right, so here we go. So rhetoric is basically using language effectively to persuade, inform, educate, or entertain. We've kind of already talked about that. When you analyze a piece of writing, you are pretty much looking for the rhetoric that the writer used. So the rhetorical situation then is the circumstances in which you are communicating. So for you as a writer, it's going to be much different from me as a writer, from, a published writer. Okay, all of our different rhetorical situations are different. So what you have when you sit down to write is a bunch of different contexts that are going on around you. The biggest part of this situation is the culture that you're writing in. So are you American? Are you Chinese? Are you Chinese American? It's all different. So the culture that you're writing in, the culture that you're from, can be different from person to person. And then the context in which you're writing. Are you writing for a class? Are you writing for English 101? Are you writing for English 201? Are you writing for fun? Are you writing for a newspaper? The context in which you're writing. I mean, even are you sitting at a desk? Are you in a library? Are you on the city street? Those tiny, tiny details all add to the context in which you're writing. Okay, and then you, of course, bring your own element to the context. The purpose for which you're writing. Is this for an assignment? Is this for fun? Is this to get paid for? The topic that you're writing about, and then the audience that you're speaking to. They all work together in the rhetorical situation because every element, if it's changed, will change the entire situation. So you start with the writer. In this case, you. Your culture, your characteristics, and your interests completely affect what you write about and how you write it, especially if you're writing something about something that you don't care about. That's pretty hard. So that's why I always try to get you guys to, work on writing what you're interested in, even if it is, about a given reading that I'm assigning you. You can you have a tiny bit of freedom in there. So still try to write on what interests you, because it will affect your writing. So your age, your experiences, your gender, your location, your beliefs, I mean, political, religious, any type of beliefs you have in your personal philosophy, your parents, your peers, how you were brought up, the education that you received, every single one of those creates you. And when you sit down to write, all of these things are inherently a part of your writing. Sometimes it may manifest itself, sometimes not. All right, there we go. All right, so think about your purpose. Are you writing to entertain, to inform, to shop, to call to action, to educate, to persuade? You have to think about how you're writing, or the purpose for which you're writing, because that is going to affect how you're writing. If you're meant to entertain, you're probably going to have some humor. If you're going to educate, you're probably going to be a little more formal and be very detailed and very step-by-step in how you present your information. So your purpose is very important. What type of writing? Your genre. Kind of goes back to the purpose. You've got fiction, autobiographical, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really, pertain to us necessarily, because you are pretty much always going to be writing a rhetorical analysis in this class. But you might have some criticism in there. Your discussion boards have a little bit of criticism in there. So that's a totally different context. It's a totally different genre. You also are kind of being persuasive, but it's not the argumentative essay we've talked about earlier in the quarter. So what type of writing are you trying to create? And then go to the other side. To whom are you writing? Your audience. The same factors that affect you as the writer also affect your audience. So you need to be very conscious of that. Think about the age or the class or the education, all of that, because it affects how you're writing. When I wrote my graduate thesis, I'm going to bring up that example from time to time because it was such a huge part of my education. When I wrote my thesis, my audience was very educated, and that saved me because I didn't have to nitpick. I didn't have to get really detailed unless I wanted to. So you kind of need to pick where you want to write. I will always tell you that I'm not your audience, because when students do that, they will just say, for this paper, I have chosen, meh. That's not how you want to write. You want to write to somebody that you are imagining is going to read it. And who is that audience? You need to think of these factors because that affects how you write. Okay, topic, kind of self-explanatory. Can be broadened or narrowed depending on, your writing or how long it's supposed to be. So most of your topics in this course need to be pretty narrow because my paper or the paper lengths are so short. 3 pages might seem like a lot to you now. Really, in the scheme of things, it's not a lot at all. So you've got to keep your topics pretty narrow. Excuse me. And then more on the context. The situation in which you're writing totally changes how you're going to write your message. Time period, location, current events, all of that. Even the cultural significance. All of that affects your context. Okay, that's kind of a sum up. So pretty much, very basically, every time you write, you need to be aware of all of these elements. You as the writer, your audience, your culture, your context, your purpose, your topic, everything. You need to always be aware of all of that because it always affects how you write. And then you need to adapt your writing based on all of that information. Now, at the same time, the major reason I wanted to bring up this slideshow is not necessarily just being about you. Think about the readings that you are assigned in this course and think about the situations from which they are coming. You're looking at published works. Where were they published? Why were they published? What is the author's biography? How does that play into the readings? All of that information is very important, and it affects the rhetoric that that person uses in order to get their message across. So this isn't something that's really pointed out in the textbook, but I wanted you to be aware of it, that all of this stuff, all of that, the writer, the purpose, all of that plays into any given piece of writing, whether it's yours and you're the writer, or whether it's somebody else and you're simply the audience. What if the articles that I assign you don't really include you as the audience. How does that affect the message as it's delivered to you? It's just all stuff I want you to think about. So if you have any questions on it, let me know. This is kind of more of an awareness thing, but do be aware, and hopefully this can help you analyze as you sit back and go, okay, who is this author? What are they trying to do? What is their purpose? What is their topic? Who is their intended audience? Am I a part of that? What is the context they're writing in? What is the culture they're writing in? Because again, I can't say it enough, it all affects the writing. Every single element of it does. So again, if you have any questions, let me know.